Limerence. First of all, I'm sorry. This is a very difficult, oh my god. If you've never experienced it, it's kind of impossible for you to really know what it's like. Let me take that back. What I'm trying to say is that you could theoretically know what it is and you could still not fully understand it, because the actual feeling is so raw and visceral and painful. It's also low-key kind of embarrassing, let's be for real. Makes you understand insane people. It humbles you. It really does. I think it's important to understand what limerence is not. It's definitely not a normal crush. A crush is supposed to feel fun in an almost light way. It's supposed to be exciting, and you don't go insane with a normal crush. With limerence, however, it's kind of similar at the beginning. It feels like just a normal crush, but it develops into something that's more of an obsession. With limerence, you're constantly ruminating so much that it starts to affect you in your daily activities, and after a while it really does interfere with your life. It feels like a weight, and it feels like it's taken a big part of your energy, and you might start to feel tired, exhausted. Once you've experienced a normal, healthy crush and limerence, it's pretty easy to distinguish both of them, obviously. But if you're still having doubts, if you're not sure if what you have could be limerence, I would ask myself the following questions. First of all, do I find myself thinking about someone a lot? And by a lot, I mean almost every waking second. If the answer is yes, are the emotions that I'm having when I think about them negative? Is there a lot of anxiety, or do I feel almost like a rush of adrenaline? Does that feel addictive to me? Do I feel completely desperate for them to reciprocate my feeling? If the answer is yes, then it's probably limerence. Perhaps, like I used to, you struggle with a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of what ifs, which is like devastating to think about that. It's important to give yourself some grace and to understand that you're not able to control your feelings, and it's not about that. It's about processing them in the right way, a way that's like useful to you. Everyone's experience is going to be a little bit different. There's a lot of similarities, but they are differences. Everyone's different, so of course. And that's kind of the problem, because it's so subjective. That's precisely the reason why when you're in the middle of it, it feels so isolating, because no one really gets you. I remember at the time of my crash out, I had the constant need for validation, so I would constantly talk about my crush to my friends, and after a while it started to feel pointless because I was saying the same things. I realized that they were never going to fully grasp the depth of my obsession. I felt like they didn't get it, and that's a pretty isolating, awful feeling. But it also, in some twisted way, it made it special, because it was like, oh, this is, only I can get it, you wouldn't get it. Insane. I was stuck in a loop and I couldn't get out, and I couldn't even see that I was stuck in a loop. That's how bad it was. I'm going to tell you how limerence affected my own behavior in life, which was pretty insane. So basically, at this point of my life, I had met someone who I didn't just find physically attractive, but I also really liked them. I thought they were really interesting and really curious, intelligent. I don't think I'd ever felt like that intellectually with a man. He asked me out. I said yes. I was really excited. Then the pandemic hit and I never saw him again. I sent him a message and he never responded. Excuse me? That's when the obsession started. Then I sent him a Facebook, request, and he deleted his account. And he didn't block me because I had the link and I searched from like multiple accounts, because of course I proceeded to stalk him for the next 4 years. Normal stuff. I never even got to really know him. We'd spoken for a couple of months. I knew that I liked him. I knew that I found him interesting. There were many qualities about him that I liked, but at the end of the day, I didn't really know him. It was very surface level, and that's, I think, precisely the reason why I was so attracted to him, because I was able to put him on a pedestal and I was able to give him the best qualities that I could imagine. So it's really, if you don't know someone, it's easier to paint them with the best qualities, and you so desperately want to believe they're like that. And I got way too much into my own head. What if I had made something different? What if the pandemic hadn't happened? What if we had gone out to that date? What if I fantasize about what could have been? And that doesn't help. That's just painful. When a couple breaks up, they have a reason to be sad. I had nothing. It made it confusing. There was no logic behind it. It's not a good place to be mentally. The internet, in a way, changed everything. And when it comes to limerence, it definitely doesn't help. Stalking and constantly having this need to check on your social media is a big part of limerence, because it provides a temporary relief to the stress you might be feeling, and it helps you feel closer to the person you're obsessed with. Even if, they don't have to be someone who is really active on social media. At the beginning, it's exciting, and it's like, it almost, you can feel even energized. It seems to be very positive. But if you've been stuck a couple months, a couple years, it gets exhausting. I struggle a lot with that, like confusing a negative with a positive feeling. I thought I was excited, but I was just anxious. I thought I had energy, but I was just anxious again. I think we love intensity because it makes us feel something that's not like your normal day-to-day, which can feel pretty boring. And so having something which perhaps is not going to be healthy kind of takes you out of the normalcy of life. It is a difficult thing to navigate, especially if you're like younger. You can feel the adrenaline rush, and that's like exciting, and maybe you've never felt that. I think it's important to recognize that limerence is often triggered by idealization of another human and by uncertainty. That is going to make you feel unsafe. And if you feel unsafe, then you need to process, why do you feel like that? Some things that really helped me with my limerence journey have been so far stopping daydreaming, recognizing when I daydream and try to stop it as much as I can. When you do it way too often, it becomes a problem. If it's interfering with your normal life, you have to like stop. And for me, it came to a point where I realized that I was doing it so often during work, while I was driving, again being stuck way too much into my own head. So I'm much more aware of when I'm doing that, and if I catch myself, I try to like snap out of it and I try to do something else. I don't punish myself if I do it. I do understand that sometimes daydreaming can be useful, but if I'm thinking specifically about the person that I'm or was obsessed with, I try to knock it out, snap out of the feeling, do something else. Setting healthy boundaries, it's another good one. Limiting your interactions. Again, this is going to be different for everyone. If the person you're obsessed with is someone that you see on a daily basis, maybe setting a healthy boundary means not talking to them as often, not oversharing, texting them. For me, it meant not stalking the person that I liked, which was extremely difficult at the beginning. I really could not. I started seeing it as a game or like as a reward. So I would say, well, I'm gonna stalk him 3 times a week if I was able to complete like all of my tasks, everything that I had to do. And then instead of 3 times a week, it was like 2 times a week, once a week. Eventually the need to see what he's up to, it's going to slowly disappear. Like I still have it. I still have the urge. I try not to do it. I feel a lot of anxiety and I feel very dysregulated, and it's really difficult to concentrate because now I have this thing that's like weighing on me. So my last advice: write the things you like the most about the person you're obsessed with. Make a list about the things you like about them. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I really like that he was really smart, he had a curious mind. I made a really long list. Something that you'll notice, you will see characteristics that have been missing from your life, a type of protection or security or love that you didn't have, and now you see it in that human and you want it. Or the other thing, and something that I recognize in myself, is that I saw characteristics that I wanted to have. If I see it in other people, I'm really impressed. I don't know what the right word is, but like proud almost. Oh, that's a cool thing to enjoy learning, to be curious of the world. Like those are things that I feel really passionate about, and when I see them in someone else, it just makes me excited to meet someone who is like that. Those are really cool characteristics, and so I had to recognize that maybe those are things that I want for myself. Once you see it like that, they are things in your life you will be able to change in order to enjoy different things, to learn different skills. What we like, what we don't like, that's a big reflection on who we are and who we want to become. It's a powerful thing. And once I was able to recognize that, I was able to make amends with those thoughts, and I realized that I prefer to feel peace. I prefer to feel calmness in my life. I prefer tranquility more than the rush of adrenaline that a photo or a post can give me. I often wonder where limerence comes from. I have no idea why it happened to me, because I'm not someone who, like had a particular difficulty with attachment, or I didn't think so. I didn't have any issues within my family dynamics. I don't tend to care if people like me or not. I didn't struggle with a lot of the things that I see online with people who tend to develop limerence. I think for me, it definitely stemmed from not being able to process all of the questions that I had, and feeling that I didn't get any closure, but also feeling really stupid because I didn't even had a beginning. You know what I mean? And it was confusing. It was weird. So even though limerence sucks, don't wish it on my worst enemy. It's also been really useful in getting to know me, if that makes sense. Getting to know the parts about me that I like, the parts that I don't like, the things that I now see I have to change and I have to work on. It's been a really interesting 5 to 6 years. If you're in this state of your life, it will get better with time. I hope you learn about yourself. I hope you get something out of this whole experience. I would love to read other limerence stories, so if you want to, you can share them in the comments. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you can soon also break your obsession. Thing serious. Mango.